So next up, podcast listeners, Dallas Maverick reverses their decision to play the national anthem. So think about this for a moment. The Dallas Mavericks decided not to play the national anthem at their basketball games. And so the decision was made by their owner, Mark Cuban, who, of course, in an interview acts like he's really confused. Like, yeah, it's not a big deal. I didn't really know, but I did know, and we just didn't think anyone noticed, so therefore we didn't play it. So we have ESPN's Rachel Nichols interviewing Mark Cuban about the issue. We have a series of clips on this. You have to really listen to Mark Cuban because he is such a tool. So first up, we have the first clip, and here it is.
First, we're always talking to our community. I mean, that's something Cent stands for and is very insistent upon and has become a core part of who we are at the Dallas Mavericks. And in listening to the community, there were quite a few people that voiced their concerns, or really their fears that the national anthem and did not fully represent them, that their voices were not being heard. And so we've had a lot of conversations about whether or not we should play the anthem. And so during the first preseason game, we decided to not play it and just see what the response was, knowing that we were going to have ongoing conversations about it.
That's because the national anthem is a unifying song, right? It is unifying to play the national anthem before any major sports event, or, of course, any kind of patriotic event that you want to play it at. Normally you would play it because it unifies people. It brings them together. That is a good thing. But apparently Mark Cuban doesn't really understand that. And so he further explains himself to Rachel Nichols of ESPN. And we have that second clip, and here it is.
We didn't make any decision to never play the national anthem. That wasn't the case at all. We didn't cancel the national anthem. We still had our flag flying proud and up on the wall at the American Airlines Center, and everybody had the opportunity to address it and pray to it or salute to it or whatever their feelings are. And we, as the games went by, honestly, we kept on talking about what we were going to do at some point. But obviously it came to the head when it was reported that at one of our games that we hadn't played it. But, the bottom line.
So that's Mark Cuban, of course, explaining himself. If you notice, his tail is between his legs there, and he's trying to explain very carefully why he didn't play it. But then meanwhile, he gets caught from not playing. And he's like, well, I mean, we didn't actually decide we weren't trying to cancel it. Well, that's exactly what you were doing. You didn't play it. If you didn't play it, you were trying to cancel it. And look, in the broader context of the Chinese involvement in Major League Sports, especially the NBA, it sure makes you wonder, right? It sure makes you wonder to what extent owners like Mark Cuban, who really seem to care only about the dollar and not about necessarily what's patriotic and what is unifying and trying to bring us together despite what he may say, it sure makes you wonder how much he's being leveraged by the Chinese government because of all of the Chinese money that is involved in the NBA, without question. And so here's Rachel Nichols of ESPN, okay, ESPN. And so she says to Mark Cuban, what about your decision once people noticed it wasn't being played? You noticed that it wasn't being played. People noticed it wasn't being played. So when did you decide, finally that it made sense versus before? What's changed? And we have that clip, and here it is.
And then what were the conversations you had over the past 24 hours since it came into the news that you guys had not been playing it, since someone noticed, frankly, and started asking about it? What was the back and forth between you and the league office?
None really. I mean, I talked some to Adam and got his feedback and gave him my feedback that, we had people who were upset by it and were passionate in them being upset. And we had people that fully supported it. That, a lot of people said that they don't understand why, the anthem is played prior to a game. Others said, it shouldn't be played prior to a game. Others said it didn't represent them and they're concerned about being played and it made them uncomfortable. And we talked about all the different feedback that we had received.
So, basically we listened to what people had to say, and it wasn't so important to us that we just do the right thing from the outset. We just wanted to make sure that people were okay with us kickstarting, playing the national anthem once again at the Mavericks games because, it's it's one of those things we could just do without if we really wanted to, because it's divisive. It's divisive. So this is what is really wrong, of course, today in sports. It's one of the reasons why I really just have no interest in watching the NBA, at least at this particular point in time, because some of the owners, like, of course, Mark Cuban, have lost their minds. They've lost their minds as it relates to just common sense. Let's walk through this for a moment. So let's say you're Mark Cuban, you play the national anthem, and you have 10,000 people who email you and call you and say, why did you play the national anthem? I want you to play the black national anthem, like they did at the Super Bowl. And I think you have a responsibility to say, because this is the United States of America, and we believe that the national anthem is a unifying song, and we've always played it before the games. And in fact, many times we have members of the military coming, and they are playing the actual national anthem, and there's usually an individual singing it, and we honor them. So why would we just discontinue that all of a sudden? How are you aggrieved, right? But of course, we can't have that conversation, because Mark Cuban really kind of vacillates back and forth. Well, we didn't play it, and then we did play it because, people said, why aren't you playing it? And I didn't really think anybody noticed, so what's the big deal? That's basically Mark Cuban putting money ahead of his country. And this is the country that's given him all of this opportunity to become phenomenally wealthy, and he just doesn't care, right? He spent 4 years complaining about Donald Trump, about how Donald Trump didn't know how to articulate a sentence, and Donald Trump was anti-American, and he wasn't unifying, and he was anti-immigrant. And then here you have this guy who basically is anti-American because he won't even play the national anthem. And that's Dallas Maverick reverses decision to play the national anthem.